This is Prime Crime Network.
At a funeral home this weekend leaves a family planning yet another funeral. Police arrested 67-year-old Queen Jackson, and she now faces manslaughter charges. Jackson was in court today. Anayeli Ruiz joins us live outside the jail with the latest on that story. Anayeli.
Well, Jackson is accused of shooting and killing her 22-year-old great-nephew in the head, and it all happened during her brother's funeral. A family mourning the death of their loved one now has to bury a second family member. The woman accused of the crime is 67-year-old Queen Jackson, who now faces manslaughter charges.
Defendant states she intended to stop a verbal argument.
According to records, it happened at Jackson's brother's memorial service Saturday morning at this funeral home near Tidwell and 45 North. Investigators say a fight started inside and spilled outside. That's when they say Jackson pulled out her handgun from her purse
and fired it into the air. She stated she attempted to fire it. The gun failed to discharge. She lowers it and held it in her hand, pointed away from her, and the gun struck the 22-year-old complainant on the side of his head.
Records say she shot and killed 22-year-old Eric Hubert, her brother's grandson.
She shot him in the back of the head, and I witnessed it.
But records say there are conflicting points of view. Some family members believe it was not intentional, while others say it was.
The thing was a murder. It was a murder.
We've reached out to the funeral home to find out if they have any surveillance video, but they tell us they do not. In the meantime, this 67-year-old grandmother now faces manslaughter charges as investigators try to piece together how one funeral service led to another death in the family. We did learn that Jackson is currently a bus driver at Sheldon ISD. We also learned her bond was set at $50,000, and her family was trying to come up with some money to be able to bond her out. Now, we also know she is not to have any contact with her great-nephew's family.
First tonight, a
Prime Crime Network
was exclusive.
For the first time, we are seeing the man who was shot and killed at a funeral for another family member over the weekend.
And his accused killer is his own great aunt. 67-year-old Queen Smith Jackson is accused of shooting 22-year-old Eric Hubert. Police say she told them it was accidental and she was only trying to break up a fight.
However, some family members are disputing that tonight.
A woman who tells us they didn't want to show their face in fear of retaliation. They tell us, rather, they believe Jackson should be facing stronger charges in connection to the shooting death of 22-year-old Eric Hubert, who many knew and loved by his nickname, Noonie.
He wasn't a throwaway. He was a lovable person, stood out of trouble, stood out of the way. He said he never wanted to be around negative things. He did everything right.
Noonie, identified as the man who lost his life over the weekend, was at his grandfather's funeral mourning his death when he lost his own life.
It's clear we have a family fighting and one person shot on the ground.
Queen Smith Jackson, the victim's great aunt, is accused of pulling the trigger that ultimately killed the 22-year-old. Court records reveal Jackson told police she pulled out a gun to shoot it in the air to stop a fight between her family members, but it didn't fire.
Who brings a gun to a funeral? Who does that?
Court documents detail Jackson told police she lowered the gun and pointed it away from her when the gun went off and hit Noonie. Some loved ones tell ABC 13 they feel it was intentional. Loved ones we spoke to say the disagreement started when Noonie told his uncle to stop being fake, since he believed he was never there for his grandfather. They say the argument then escalated, Noonie unfortunately losing his life.
He gonna be missing. He impact a lot of lives. He truly gonna be missed.
Jackson's next hearing is set for June 5th.
Prime Crime Network
was exclusive.
It's torture. It's torture. It's absolute torture.
Yeah, this mother tells me she lives with guilt every day, but she's now trying to stand up against the man accused of victimizing her daughter. I want to let our viewers know this story is of a sensitive nature.
I tried to kill myself. I didn't see another way out because to me, leaving was never an option because of my mom. What would happen if I left?
Melissa Leone breaks down as her daughter Karenna shares her story, saying she endured sexual abuse to save her.
I wish I could take it all back.
And now looking back, Melissa says she realizes Nathan Chasinghorse was grooming her daughter. She says they first met the self-proclaimed medicine man and spiritual leader when Karenna was about 6 years old.
And he told me certain things about my own husband, trying to make me see like that there was no future or hope.
She says she left her husband, a decision she now regrets.
Like looking back, I wish he didn't let me leave.
She says she became devoted to Chasinghorse's group known as The Circle.
Do you believe it's a cult? Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't see it as a cult while I was in there.
Melissa says she was diagnosed with cancer when Karenna was 14 years old. They asked Chasinghorse for help to heal her. Karenna visited him and says he told her spirits demanded her purity to save her mother. And that's when she says he sexually assaulted her for the first time.
And what happened there was rape, and there's no other label to put on it.
She says the sexual abuse continued, and Chasinghorse told her if she told anyone, her mother could no longer be helped. When she turned 16, they say he asked Melissa if Karenna could be his wife.
I think I was so brainwashed by then. I looked at it as some kind of honor that he chose my daughter. I was so sick in the head at that point that it was an honor. And I would walk around the circle with almost kind of feeling more entitled or privileged than the other women.
When Karenna turned 18, she says she moved in with Chasinghorse as his 7th wife, and the abuse, now also physical and verbal, escalated. She says she escaped in late 2021 and slowly began telling her mother what had happened. In January, Chasinghorse was arrested, and he now faces 18 charges in Clark County related to the alleged abuse of 2 women. Karenna is one of them.
And every day I have to wake up and convince myself that I'm a good mom. But it's really hard when you know the choice that you made put her there, and I didn't know. I couldn't even get her out. I didn't know.
Chasinghorse is expected to be back in court here tomorrow. He also faces federal charges and warrants in Montana and Canada. These additional cases seem to be in large part because Karenna came forward.
Thank you for watching Prime Crime Network, your source for urban and suburban and around the world news. Hit the subscribe, like, and the notification bell. And check us out on PrimeCrimeNetwork.com.